Today I'm talking to Giulio Sciorio of Small Camera, Big Picture. Okay, I'm here with Giulio Sciorio. He's a photographer that's based in the Miami area, and he's a guy that kind of hung his hat on creating cool images that move and using multimedia to do it and doing all this sort of cool stuff. I coined the phrase, by the way, multimediographer a while ago.
Yeah.
However, Giulio went on to do it. So welcome, man. Welcome to the show.
Howdy.
All right, cool. So you were here a couple weeks ago. You did a meetup, the This Week in Photo meetup here. And how did that go for you? Was it fun?
That was a ton of fun. Such awesome people, man. I love the Bay Area. It's like a place where you can just like randomly hug people and not get punched in the face, you know?
Yes. Yeah.
It was cool, man. Felix was there with the lighting. Super cool. The models were cool. You were great. Everyone was great, you know?
Yep. And you brought the GH3, and I brought my GH3, the Panasonic let me borrow. So we had dueling GH3s there, shooting video and stills using LED lighting. It was awesome. That was a good time.
Ton of fun.
Yeah.
Hopefully I can get out again this fall and we can do something else.
Yeah, no, you're always welcome at my meetups, dude.
Cool.
So let's talk about creativity a little bit. So the GH3, Felix lighting, you know, all these cool cameras that are floating around out here. I mean, Trey Ratcliffe just announced that he was making the switch from Nikon to the Sony NEX series cameras. I've got an OMD. All this technology that is sort of bridging the gap of hard, you know, so it's no longer really difficult to do these really nice images anymore. So at the beginning, we've got all this cool hardware on the left side, and then at the end, we've got iPhones and iPads and computers and all this stuff to display this stuff. What about the stuff in between? You know, getting from your computer, your camera, your GH3, all the way through to the laptop. How do we bridge that gap and learn how to do that?
I think that's like the biggest challenge right now. So we have tools like the Creative Cloud, which I'm a huge fan of, and that I think can facilitate it's going to have to at this point, facilitate the development of, say, like a vertical motion portrait or a talking portrait or something to that effect. But what we don't have right now is a solution for photographers to be able to do post-production on video with a photographer's brain. You know what I mean? That's one thing that I'm seeing that there's a need for. We have stuff
when you say with a photographer's brain, do you mean looking at an image and thinking one frame, composition, lighting, all that, or? Yeah,
well, I mean, I tell photographers, shoot your motion like you shoot your stills. Just go from one button to the other. Don't overcomplicate it, because shooting a short film is a totally different thought process. It's a different skill set. You know, to say, okay, I'm going to make this movie, and I got to have these different points in the movie where things occur. Whereas I just may want to shoot a portrait and may have the model move around a little bit, or a cinematographer may say, okay, we're going to take this model and take this actor into a journey, and then we're going to edit it accordingly and make a 3-minute movie. I'm going to make maybe a 30-second fashion video or something to that effect.
Now, do those skills leak over? You know, because I think we're still learning in a lot of ways, because a lot of photographers. Like, granted, video just started recently, within the last couple of years, started showing up ubiquitously on DSLRs. And photographers, myself included, were slow to embrace that. You know, they're like, okay, well, some people like Vincent Laforet, of course, jumped in and now is leading everybody, you know. But, you know, other people are like, I don't want to shoot video. I'm a photographer. I'm not a video. If I wanted to shoot video, I'll buy a video camera, you know. So
I agree.
To those people that are, there's always going to be the Luddites that are stuck in the past, but to the people that want to move forward but are held back by, you know, it's a whole different language. It's different software. It's different storage requirements. It's different everything. You know, what do you say to those people?
You know, well, it's a little bumpy right now. I'm not going to be like, it's easy, because even like the other day, you and I were emailing back and forth about, you know, well, why is the camera not recording video after X amount of time? We're like, well, it's because of the codec. No, wait a second, it's because of the amount of data. No, actually, it's a FAT32 thing. Well, now we find out it's kind of a combination. It's It's the formula of a combination of all those elements.
Yeah.
So it's not like you turn your camera on and it's RAW or it's JPEG, and you know what you do with the JPEG, you know what you do with the RAW, and you're done.
You don't have different resolutions, different frame rates, different flavors of HD and all this stuff. It's a matrix.
And that's why I tell people to when they want to get into it, just to shoot your motion like you shoot your stills. Don't necessarily think about trying to get overly technical about it, because it can get really tricky. Like, what's your codec, your frame rate, 180-degree shutter, and all that. Just kind of get in a habit of shooting motion every time you shoot some still images. And I say motion. I don't say videos. I think of videos like your kids playing soccer.
Yeah.
Or VHS dude with the camcorder on the shoulder. Hey, everybody, here, what do you got to say?
Hey, that was me, man.
I did that too.
We made music videos when we got our first video camera. It was all about dancing and music videos. I
did a kung fu film, so it was pretty awful in like 10th grade or something like that. But
yeah.
But for instance, okay, look at Lightroom. It's every release is getting more and more into shooting or to doing some stuff with motion. So right now you can take your clips, you can kind of trim them up a little bit. You can make a virtual copy, trim that up a little bit, do basic color correction, and you can make a simple slideshow. So that's like the start of, I think, what we need to see more of. I currently use Premiere and ProShow Web to make my video. I love ProShow Web because once I put it up, it's a cloud-based service. So once I put my stuff into the cloud, the files are backed up. It's edited for me. I can do it from my iPad. All the editing's done in the background, and then I can tweak it. So it's fun for it's good for fun stuff. But sometimes I need to do a custom look, and then I'll use Premiere, which also it's like the two ends of the spectrum. Very simple, quick and easy is ProShow Web. Very sophisticated. You can do whatever you want. Would be Premiere. Yeah. I use both, but wouldn't it be nice to be able to do it in Lightroom with the exact tools that we're used to? Without having to think, okay, well, now I got to go in a Lightroom, and is it going to be 60i, 60p, 1280, 1019, blah, 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 blah.
Don't forget 720.
720, and then the other thing is this, what if I want to make a vertical video? Why does it have to be difficult? I mean, we can hold these like this, or like this, or like this, or like that.
Yep.
What's the holdup? Why does it have to be like this? We can make it like this too. You know what I mean? So I should be able to do all that in Lightroom. You can do a lot of that stuff in Photoshop, but it's still not. It is getting better, but there's like these missing links.
Yeah, which is the technology, right? We're still filling in the blanks, right? So what about Photoshop? So Photoshop has the capability to do video in there and basically take a layered Photoshop document and put motion on it, essentially stretch it along a timeline and do keyframing along all those parameters. Is that the tool? Is that going to be the de facto tool of the trade for these multimediagraphers and motion portrait creators?
I think it certainly could be. I mean, Adobe Photoshop CC has got a lot of powerful tools for motion.
Yeah.
And I've done some of my motion portraits in Photoshop, which is great. Because when I was a kid, it was like, hey, I could put my head in a dollar bill, and now I'm like, I can take a video clip and a still image, I can blend it together, I can make them interact. Yeah. Using tools that I'm familiar with.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy where stuff has gone. So let's talk a little bit about creativity here. So there's the technical leaps that people used to have to jump over in order to create really good art and work, or even have a picture, quote unquote, come out. Remember back in the day, it was like, oh, your picture came out, you're a good photographer, So that now that we're beyond that, and your average device like your phone that you were holding up, or an entry level SLR, or even mirrorless camera, whatever, can do all this stuff on an automated basis. Where does the technology stop and the photographer start? So where does the camera stop and the photographer start in terms of creativity if you're doing a lot of this stuff inside using the processor in the camera?
Well, I mean, I think the cameras now are getting to a point where you can really trust the program modes. They really are doing the heavy lifting, especially in a mirrorless hybrid camera, because it's like I was talking to my friend Rob Knight today, and we're talking about not post-production, not post-processing, but pre-processing. So building your image first in your mind and then building it in the camera prior to releasing a shutter, prior to capturing emotion. Because you can see it live in the camera, so you already know, is it going to be overexposed, underexposed?
Yeah.
Is the contrast too crunchy? Is it too flat? Too much saturation? Maybe I want to make it look retro. Maybe I want to make it look black and white. And there's something that's very interesting to think about how that is now. How like as a pro or an enthusiast, anybody can make a really good image.
Yep.
And the only thing, like people tell me, well, what's the difference in a pro and a non-pro? Well, back in the day, the pros were a very, very, very highly skilled photographer. And if you were the only person in town that had a large format camera, and you could shoot well, because you had to do it all on your negative and then a lot in the darkroom, which is a lot of work as well. You can shoot anything. You'd have all the business that you could handle. Yeah. But you'd be a generalist. You'd shoot a portrait, and then maybe you do some architectural stuff, do some tabletop work. Now with what these cameras doing the heavy lifting, the technical part is not as demanding on the individual.
Yeah.
So a professional necessarily at this point is more or less not. You don't necessarily have to be as technically inclined, but I feel that because the cameras are doing the heavy lifting for us and the software as well, that creativity is what's now available.
Yeah, it would like the old Spider-Man saying, Uncle Ben said to Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility, right?
Right.
Or like I like to quote from The Incredibles. You remember the movie The Incredibles? Mm-hmm. The supervillain in that was trying to make everyone a superhero, because when everyone's a superhero, no one is.
Right.
So
right.
You want to make everyone super. So, and when I saw that, I was thinking that's kind of like photography, because everyone is becoming super, which means the line between the professional and the amateur or even the beginner is blurred, or it's very blurred. So like you were just saying, the thing that now professionals need to differentiate themselves from the masses now is on creativity and vision. So then my question to you as a pro, how do you get there? How do you, if I recognize that, everyone's super around me, all my neighbors have lenses that are white and cost a lot of money, and they go out and shoot, they could go, to the park and shoot great shots. So everyone has superpowers, as do I, because I have the same gear. How do I take the next leap to get good?
Right, that's a great question. I mean, for me, as far as like the quality of work, I go on Google Plus, I go on Flickr, and I see work that is every bit as good as professional work.
Yeah.
I see it, I'm like, that's sellable. That like they're all. It's like really. I get inspired by the enthusiasts.
Yeah,
they're excited to shoot. They got a great attitude, and they're like, wow, look at this, I made that. And I'm looking at that, I'm like, oh my god. I really got to get better. I'm like, I just got to get, because these guys are like, they're posting stuff online. I'm like, oh, I gotta peace out for a second. Because I really suck. You
want to really get scared? Get on YouTube and look up some of these Photoshop tutorials that these teenagers are putting up there that are just this amazing photo manipulative work, that I would have dreamed to know how to do that when I was a teenager. And they're like, oh yeah, and you just do this, and you put this tree here, and you put a shadow on it, and boom, look.
I know, you're like, man, it's like, get your hanky.
Yeah.
But I think to answer your question, I think it's okay. So the cameras can create a still image, and they can create a motion image, and they can capture sound.
Yep.
So what I'm seeing the enthusiasts do well right now is and a lot of the pros is making a beautiful still image. Mm-hmm. What I see very few people, regardless of their profession, I see very few people taking the stills and the motion and the sound and combining them together and making something unique.
Yeah, that's true. And that's the new art form, right? I mean, that is a new art form. So maybe that's the thing, right? So if people are looking for something to differentiate themselves with, maybe it's not just one thing. Maybe it's an amalgamation of audio, video, and still photography.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, like I'm in love with like tablets and smartphones. I got like a bunch of Android stuff and iOS stuff, and I look at it, and I'm like, wow, capture still images. It can capture video. It can capture audio, and it can display it all. So think about that for a second. I'm like, So my still photography, not only can I hear it or see it, I can see it move and I can hear it.
Yeah.
So even if someone is not looking, I got my screen turned away, they can still hear my photograph.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm trying to think in terms of how can I use those elements to create something that as a professional is going to drive my business. And for me, it's been kind of just going all in into hybrid photography, and really that I've been experimenting with it since 2009. And now that we have tablets and phones and all that, I got a place where I can display it and where people can consume it, and now I can sell it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know? It's interesting. And I was thinking about the other day, about how all this stuff has changed and what's different. And you think back, in the olden days of, folks like Da Vinci and these great masters, that master light and shadow. And, I think about, like, what if they had ubiquitous flat screens available to them? Would that change? Because back then, I guess what I'm getting at, the limitation was if you wanted people to see your vision, you had to paint on a 2-dimensional surface, right? Mm-hmm. That was it. That's how you got it out of here into their minds. What if, and you look at today as, okay, now that 2-dimensional surface with colored dye and paint on it is now a LCD screen. Right. And now you create for that. You have to create your Sistine Chapel with the tools and the display modes that we have available to us today. So,
yeah, I mean, what if you have what if you go to a museum or something and you have multiple screens and you have the motion photographs move from screen to screen?
Yep. Yeah, it's the sky's the limit. Yeah, you have a whole wall, with synchronized LCDs on there. I mean, you see it in concerts all the time.
Totally, and I've been reading about it online that photography is dying, and I don't believe that at all. I don't think the still image is dying. I just think that now we have more options to us as photographers.
Yeah, yeah.
A good still photograph is a good still photograph. It was years ago, and it'll be still a good photograph years from now.
Yep.
But what's available is we've gone from a box of 16 crayons to a box of 128 crayons.
Yeah.
Yep. If someone, I feel for myself as if I have a camera that is capable of doing all these cool in-camera effects, still motion, sound, and it can do it well, and I'm only utilizing one portion of it, I don't feel that I'm getting my money's worth with my equipment, and I don't feel like I am pushing myself hard enough as a creative person.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to experiment. When I was a kid, I used to, and I did this until I got in trouble, but I would go around my house and I would cut electrical cords. And one day I got electrocuted. And then I stopped cutting electrical cords. I've always been curious like that,
Wow, with metal scissors, right?
Yes. This was before they had the plastic handles. And I remember specifically the cords and the light shocked me, and then they arced and they fused. And then I was super in trouble.
Wow!
I still remember that. I was like 4 years old, and
you're lucky that was the worst that happened, that you got in trouble. Yeah,
very lucky. And I'm like that with my camera. I'm like, they got all these crazy filter effects in there, and I'm like, okay, I'll try it. Mm-hmm. If it doesn't work, if I don't like it, I don't like it. But I'm going to challenge myself to try to make it work.
Yeah, yeah.
And then if I can make it work to my advantage, now I got another trick to use. It's like. Yep. It's like anyone can go out and buy a ninja suit. Mm-hmm. But can you throw that ninja star? Can you use that sword? Yep. Can you scale a wall, or are you just like a chubby dude in a ninja suit eating a cheeseburger?
Yeah, I know.
And I love my cheeseburgers, man. But
I love it. All right, so Julie, I want to close this off with a little lifestyle talk. So. Mm-hmm. You're a hipster, right? You're the hip guy living in Miami, sitting in the orange velour chair, velvet chair. Yeah. You're that guy. I got books and geek stuff around me, right? So when you look at this stuff, when I say this stuff, I'm just photography specifically, the art of photography, mm-hmm. or even the market of photography. one of the things you and I talked about earlier before we started recording was this idea that there might be a little bit of a bifurcation happening between people that are into photography because they love photography and they just want to make a shot of a butterfly and, they love it. That's what they do. And then on the other side of that are people that are like, I need a retro-looking camera so that I can look hip as I strut around on the beach. I'll never take a photo with it, but it's the fashion or the lifestyle of photography. And then there's, I'd say I'm in the middle there somewhere, but there's the blur in the middle. What do you think about this? I mean, you must see some of this in Miami,
Oh, daily. I mean, I see people walking around with the Leica Aramis edition. I'm like around their neck, and it's like 27 grand. It's brand new. They're all just decked out in like beautiful clothes, and they're walking, and they're not even using the camera. Then they'll stop and they'll look at something. And I'm like, what are they looking at? And then slowly,
oh no!
And then they look, and then before they take a picture, they go like this, squint, go back up, click, and then they walk on.
Wow!
I call those guys the fashion photographers. I'm not dissing on no one, but you were talking about that spectrum, and I see the spectrum as on one side you got the pure hipsters, the kids that are out, they just want to look cool, the camera on their neck, they want to shoot film, just to play that lifestyle,
which is totally fine if that's what you want to do.
Fine. I mean, there's no shame in that game, and that could be a lifestyle. People that want to have a giant DSLR and wear that over their shoulder and walk around and saying, if you don't shoot raw, you're a fool or whatever. That's a whole other lifestyle.
Yep.
And then, on the other side, you got the pure, like, camera, super high tech, very technical photographer, and every one of us is somewhere along in that spectrum.
Yeah.
That's like the part of the lifestyle photography. But specifically, there are more and more people now that are getting the tools to become part of the lifestyle rather than to become part of the art.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of like cars, right? You buy a car, yes, because you want to get from point A to point B, but there are so many different brands and colors and sizes and shapes because we're all individuals and we have different needs and both, real needs and aesthetic needs, So that's why we have all this different stuff, which is why we have different cameras. I mean, I got my Olympus OMD specifically because of what it could do and what I needed that body to do, to be able to do. But then another part of my brain wanted it because it looked cool.
Right.
It's retro, and I got a little leather strap for it, and a half case, and it's like, so it kind of became like, okay, what's a good analogy?
Lifestyle item.
The old cameras that I used to carry around, I would call them more like RoboCop. Mm-hmm. High tech, they could do anything, awesome. But my new camera is more like a Predator drone.
Okay.
So it's much smarter, it's autonomous, it does all this cool stuff, but it's also cool looking. So
it's nice to have a camera that looks cool. I mean, I always always put all sorts of accessories and different colored straps.
I watched some of your videos where you just been 30 minutes blinging out a camera with stickers and accessories and all this. Yeah,
you got to have fun with it. It's that the photo lifestyle, as far as making the camera look cool and integrating it into your own personal wardrobe and whatnot, and using the camera as a fashion accessory, that is really big overseas. You see that a lot overseas.
I bet, yeah.
Because you figure if you can get a really nice camera, say for $500-600, and you can, and you can bling it out, you can get the camera in different colors, then it's not, a far stretch of the imagination to say some person may have 4 or 5 different versions of that camera to wear with different outfits.
Wow, I never thought about doing that, but I could see. I could see. I just see this guy in his closet with all the shoes and meticulously lined up suits and all that, and then over here is a glass case with the OMD and the Panasonic, and then hey, I may want to be hardcore and take a DSLR tonight,
Right, and then they have their watches that go with it. I mean, that's the lifestyle.
Yeah,
and like I said, there's no shame in that. I mean, I like the stuff that looks cool too. I bought a camera bag from Chrome, and they're not a camera bag company, but I partly bought it because it looks cool.
The fashionista, that's what
it does function well, though. I gotta say.
But the other part of it that we didn't really touch on is I think for me, speaking from a sample size of one, I'm more apt to bring my camera with me if it's kind of part of my get up. If I'm going to take it, whereas I'm not going to carry, I'm looking at DSLR here. I'm not going to like go out and, I'm just going to walk around the block and I'm going to bring this with me,
Right.
I'm not going to do that. But my little OMD, I'll throw that over my shoulder and I'll take it with me. And by virtue of it being with me means I may shoot something, whereas this is going to be at home because I'm not that serious about this walk that I'm going on.
No, for sure. And it hits that sweet spot. You got a device that's still very capable.
Yeah.
That doesn't weigh a ton. And it looks cool.
Yep.
That's
and let's be real. It's better to look good than to feel good. Right?
Sometimes, man.
Tell me you remember that reference. You don't remember that? I'm going to link to that in the body of this YouTube video. That was Billy Chrystal on Saturday Night Live doing Fernando Lamas or somebody like that. I don't know.
Okay.
This is a long time ago.
Yeah, that was back when also I think he was on Soap, right?
Yes. Okay. Yeah, I think he did the same character on Soap.
Yeah.
Wow, we're going way back. Yeah. Pretty soon we'll be on Fantasy Island in the Love Boat.
Dude, that little midget, he was a brutal one.
Exactly.
If you ever look him up, what's his name?
Hervé Vallechez, yeah.
Yeah, he was a bruiser, man.
Was he? Like a tough guy?
He was always getting into like fights in bars and like beating on people.
No kneecaps were safe around him, right?
Dude, you do not want to meet that guy in an alley.
Wow, I bet.
Yeah.
I bet, yeah.
It's like a little bulldog, dude, gnawing at you.
Wow. You go for the throat. Awesome. Cool, man. All right, man. I know you got to go. This was a great talk. Thank you. Thanks for doing this. I can't wait to get this online and stir the pot a little more, with the folks that are clinging to their DSLRs. I'm still clinging to my DSLR, by the way. It's not going anywhere. I just use it less than I did before.
I think if we can find, like, really be just completely honest with ourselves and say, what am I most afraid of creatively, and experiment in that realm, you will grow as an artist.
Yes.
Even if you fail, you will grow. I've learned more from my failures than from my successes.
That's the way of life right there.
It is. So try shooting something that moves. If it sucks from the beginning, then you're like everybody else. And if it's amazing, then you are a boss.
Yeah. The good takeaway from that, those very salient words is people, and I was having a conversation with my nephew about this because he was talking about, oh, you look like you're doing all this cool stuff. And, and I said, look, you only see the stuff that we let you see. You only see the tip of the iceberg. No one goes around raving and bragging about their failures,
Right.
The only thing you see is the tip of the iceberg above the waterline, which is the successes. There's much more mass underneath that waterline.
And we should do a show once, and I'll tell everybody about all my failures.
There you go. Yes. Let's do it.
I'll talk about all my failures, man.
I don't know if I want to go down that far, but I'll talk about some of them.
Okay, yeah, I have to talk about all of them, because that's like, hours and hours and hours. Yeah. And then, oh God,
that'll be therapy. By the time it's over, we'll be like, oh, call a hotline.
You gotta, man. You gotta start somewhere.
Yeah. I admire, and I'm dragging this dragging it on, but I admire the people that get online and on YouTube, and you can tell when someone is playing a role and not being themselves and just sort of playing a character when they get online versus the people that are actually true. And, they're just recording themselves as they're doing what they would normally do. And they're using the same speech, they're not trying to, be larger than life or anything. But then you also see the people that kind of use YouTube and online in general as therapy in a lot of ways, so they're like, they'll tell you deep, dark secrets. Because I was watching this one video from this one photographer, and he's just talking about, like, I broke up with my girlfriend, and I don't, I punched a wall, this kind of stuff. It is like, I don't know that I would tell thousands, presumably, potentially millions of people that kind of stuff, But
and then I punched a wall.
Exactly, and look at my bloody fist. Yeah,
that's like the title of the video.
But it deserved it. It brought it on itself.
He's at the top of the SEO when people type in wall punching.
Yeah, I know. Cool, man. All right. Well, I will link to that Billy Chrystal piece. And where should people? Speaking of linking, where should people go to connect with you and see some of the stuff that you got going on?
Just go to Small Camera Big Picture. Easiest way.
Small Camera Big Picture.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool, man. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Bet.
All right. See you later.